Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company, and welcome to Collector Conversations. It's always a pleasure to meet someone who loves the things I love, auto racing, cars, and watches, but it's also a great pleasure to meet someone who believes what I believe, which is that the watch hobby is all about people and memories. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. And here's my collection. I mean, this is like an honor. This is like, I mean, obviously, you know how legendary you are, so.
I'm a YouTuber among many, but the great thing is YouTubers are only as good as their guests and their content and the stories they tell. And you have an incredible story to tell about watches. You didn't enter into collecting immediately, but you were into watches from an early age. So tell me about those early days of watch curiosity.
So it started with me and my father. It was very much, I think it started middle school. He got me a Belova Marine Star 100 meter, and I thought it was the coolest kit ever because it was a two-toned. I was like, I have like gold on my watch. I had a gold rope chain. I was like, this is
South
amazing
Florida,
watch. 100%. Sure. I mean, this is South Florida. So yes, started with that, and I would just stare at it all the time and always stare at other people's wrists and watches, and just had such a curiosity with watches.
And now there was another one, before you got into mechanical watches proper, something a little bit more designer, I understand?
It was. I mean, like all of my other friends, we went into high school. I was under the influence that like Armani was as good as it gets. Just because you're always seeing celebrities on the runways and they're talking about their clothes and you hear these designer names and you're like, well, they're wearing it. It's obviously incredible. And I saved up for months and months and months, and I was in Macy's, and they had this Armani watch, and I was like, that is really high end. I got to be that guy. And I purchased it, and I thought I was on cloud nine. I was like, this is the best watch I'll ever own. Like, that was it.
Rolling with the wrist out the window.
100%. That was, I probably had a tan on my left hand because it was always the window was down and the watch was out, and I thought I was hot stuff.
Now, was it college at that point?
This was high school.
That was still high school.
That was still high school.
Okay, so moving towards college now, you're moving a little bit closer towards, I guess, going from watch curious to maybe the beginnings of a collection. What did the next chapter look like?
So in college, poor college kid, so it wasn't crazy. I had a scholarship in football, and one day, in college, the free thing was I would normally go to a watch store and just learn as much free things as I can, be a part of it, and just be around the scene. And for my birthday, my dad came in. I wanted to introduce him to the salesman because he's invested so much time showing me and teaching me about every watch they had in the store. And my dad surprised me with saying, you could pick out a watch for your birthday. And I didn't really know what. I know I wanted a Breitling because it was early 2000s and big was awesome. Kind of looked at what they had in the window, and they had a Super Ocean Steelfish. And I was like, okay, I want this one. It's everything. And in Florida, you want something you can like swim in, you can kind of do it all. And I want to be able to go in the pools and oceans and kind of not be able to beat it up. So I was wearing it, looking at it, showing my dad, and then the salesman guy, one of my buddies, he goes, I got something in the back that it's not out here. And he pulled out the Super Avenger, and it was like the Steelfish on steroids. It was way bigger, thicker, and in the early 2000s, like that was the scene.
And you're playing football.
Yeah, you wanted a big thing, and I'm 6'4", I wanted a big watch, and I thought, oh my gosh, I saw that, and I was like, I would love this. And my dad goes, it's yours, you could have it. And it ruined me after that. Like the joy you get of that watch where like it's uncomfortable feeling, and you're getting this, and you're like, it was the most expensive watch I could even fathom at the time of like, this is thousands of dollars, and it's mine. Like it really.
No, I know that feeling. Like it's a different life story, but the same feeling. 'Cause when I graduated high school, I got my Omega Seamaster, and I remember I'm just looking at it like,
you can't stop staring at it. It's a joy, man. It's like that one joy, and it's terrible because it's a drug. Once you get that feeling, you're into watches.
And you were. That was the beginning of a new sort of relationship with your father, even.
100%. I think that's where it probably started a competition where like I wanted to learn more, he wanted to learn more, and me and my dad growing up were very competitive on like, when we were teenagers, I always thought, oh, it's my dad. I'm like, I could mess with it. Like, I would try to wrestle and be like, I'm going to mess, like, I'm bigger and stronger. I have to be better than you. And it was always like, oh no, he could still kick my ass. Like, he was amazing. But I wanted to outlearn him with watches, or I wanted to just impress him by like, oh, this is what you know? Well, I know a little bit more. And that's kind of where we kept on pushing things. So we probably started with, like, we were doing Omega, he loved Omega, Breitling, I'm gonna like Breitling and kind of do other things just to have a competition side, because I didn't want to like everything he liked. So it was very much, well, you like that, I like this, and mine's better.
And it's a great story because you're competing to know more about watches. It's like, we can't own every watch or even every watch in our price range. We have to commit. But knowledge, in a way, it almost feels like you own all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be a part of it sometimes feels, I mean, you're right, you can't own every watch. I've tried to figure out ways I could try to get things and then let them go, and there's not enough time, and there's too many watches, and there's too many amazing watches that you really got to just stay true to yourself and try to pick a path, because there's so many brands, and then there's so many models of every brand, and that's what you just got to step back and slow it down a little bit. But early on, I had a hard time slowing it down.
No, I can understand that too. So you sort of started collecting from there, and you developed like two different themes with yourself and your dad. You proceeded on the Breitling path, but there was also a brand that you kind of mutually enjoyed as a guilty pleasure, I take it?
It was. So sadly, it was Invicta, which is, I mean, we're rocking this because...
That's world famous, by the way.
This is a world famous watch. I mean, we're just trying to, I mean, it needs to be everywhere. It's the good old Invicta Gladiator. But it was kind of our thing. Yeah, Invicta was our guilty pleasure, because I hate to say it, because like we would travel places around the world and we would always buy something that represented that trip, or we'd go to Vegas and we would like all buy watches, and it was still kind of our fun little watch to get, where the whole family would get one. Like everyone would get one matching. And Invicta was one of our things. So, I mean,
but you were still collecting the mechanical
100%.
luxury watches
and
at the same time.
It's weird too, because I feel like in your watch collecting journey, you're going to get to high-end watches, and a lot of people talk trash or they talk down upon the beginning watches. And like someone out there is dying to get one of those and just start that journey. And it's like, you can't really push that person down. I think once you start getting into higher end watches or start collecting in crazy watches, a lot of like, it starts getting very classist. Like there's, this watch is better than this and I'm better than you. And it's like, I think everyone can kind of learn and respect that. Like some dude's going to have one watch and he's going to love it. And that's going to be his thing. And more importantly, that might be a gift from someone that it's unreplaceable.
And now ultimately, the Invicta was basically something that was a bond between your dad and between other members of your family. It wasn't necessarily that you thought the Invicta was in earnest what it looks like. We all know that watch isn't made of solid gold.
No,
it's just for fun.
My dad liked them because you could pick up so many of them at a price point where you could have like 15 of them and change them out with every outfit. Because like, so my dad was very like, he wore colorful shirts and he always would have like a random watch that would match his shirt. And like, he never got into it where like, this is the best watch and I'm better than everyone. Like he would have nice Rolexes, but he would still wear Invictas, or he would wear cheaper watches just because like, oh, it matches this shirt. It's the perfect color. And he never got into the point of like, well, I gotta wear this nice watch because it's the nicest watch I have and I gotta wear it. It was always like, well, no, this just matches my shirt, so I'm gonna wear it. And I kind of took that from him, where it's never like well, it's hard now because I have some pretty cool watches, but it's like, I wanna wear the best watch I have. But I'll always take that from him being very much enjoy them all. It doesn't matter if it's $500 or $100,000.
So now, as you began to accumulate Breitlings and sort of compete with your father as a collector, tell me about the direction that your collecting took. Invicta aside, the world of mechanical watches and high-end watches, you stuck with Breitling for a while, but then you started to branch off a little.
I did. So a handful of 5 or 6 years ago, my father passed away, and I actually collected all of his collection. They're part of my collection now. We were very much doing the mainstream watches. We were meeting people. We were just part of those little circles of that. And then I my goal was to change it and go the next level. I want to bring it up to maybe a Patek, maybe a Vacheron, the Holy Trinity. Like for AP, they were like, they wouldn't let me in the door.
Flat out wouldn't let you into the shop.
Like 4 times.
Like buzz me in?
Yeah, though it was very much security guard coming out saying, email us first. Wow. I'm like, I don't know how to email. I'm an idiot. I know I like watches and I can pay for them. So there was that. But the beauty is there's hundreds of brands. There's going to be one brand that just feels right. And I think so many people just pick to what the mainstream brand is. And they're like, I want the next Patek. I want a 5711. Like that's the grail piece. Your grail piece might be something you don't even know yet because of the connection you have with this brand and like how they make you feel.
And initially you did think maybe Patek to the point where I think you got to tell me the story of the tattoo.
Okay. So when I was younger, right around 19, 20, I tattooed a split-second chronograph across the chest, which is...
The movement. That's the important thing.
Yeah, of course. That is the important thing. I mean, it's the movement. And it was my goal to always hold myself in that high regard. Live every day and just do as best as you can with business, with everything you're going to do it the best you can. Do it to that degree, and you're going to be successful. And it was kind of a reminder where one, every time you're getting ready in the morning and you're in the shower, you're going to see that. And it's going to remind you to just kick ass today. So that was my thing where I couldn't go get the watch. I still can't afford this watch. But at the end of the day, it's part of me. It meant so much for me a decade plus later of having this on my chest. And it's always been, be the best you could possibly be. And that's always kind of the main theme to that tattoo. And that was, growing up, it helped me build who I am as a guy, as a man today, to be a good businessman, be kind, be the best you could possibly be.
But it wasn't necessarily possible to get access to those Holy Trinity type watches. So where did the door finally open?
It still hasn't even opened. It's just kind of funny. I've wanted always. I still do not, to this day, I do not own a Patek. I have this on my chest, and it's not because I can't purchase one. It has to be that special memory of how you purchase one. Because to me, it's not it. I don't even care about. They make beautiful watches. I love Pateks. Honestly, I've always wanted an Aquanaut because I'm in South Florida and I want to swim in it. I want to jump in the pool and not worry about things. I want things I can usually swim in. So I still to this day don't own one. I purchased my wife a gondola. She has one. I just can't buy mine because I purchased hers used, but I won't buy mine until I get that absolute raw experience of it. And that's where it kind of started, where I couldn't purchase the mainstream Holy Trinity, and I started looking at independents. And once I started finding independents, they welcomed me with open arms. It was their family now.
Tell me about some of these brands, specifically.
So Moser, I've always been a part of just watch collectors, and everyone's talking about watches. So this Pioneer was the first Moser I purchased, and right when I purchased it, the salesperson at Bucherer was like, "Hey, let's call the president of North America, and we're going to talk to him." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It was a little weird. I was like, "Perfect." Talk to him. He came down 2 weeks later because he was throwing a party at the store, and I met him, and we became best friends. Claudio, shout out, he's amazing.
Claudio is amazing.
Claudio is awesome. He just makes you feel welcome, and everyone at Moser does. And then after that, we met Ed and Bertrand, his brother, which are the CEOs of Moser, and they're like family now. We're friends. We go to watch events and we hang out. We go to Formula One this year. They make you feel so a part of their business, and it's so refreshing because I haven't felt that with anything of this high horology. They're big people. They do incredible things, and you can get their phone number, and you can go on Facebook, and every time you do a message on their Facebook page, they're going to comment saying, "Hey man, appreciate you getting our watch."
We were literally in the other room just now live streaming with them over a video conference, and we had 20 people just suddenly saying, "Hey, Edward, how are you doing?" And he picked up.
Yeah, we were FaceTiming with him, and the best part is we were giving him crap. We weren't even like, hey, like we. So one of our buddies, Tim Mosso, just picked up a Moser today, and we wrote H. Movado on it and we just to give Edward hell, and
he thought it was funny.
Exactly. He thought it was a great time. Like, that's what makes it fun. The independent guys, like I've talked to so many independent CEOs and watchmakers, and they're normal people, and they're like, it's a weird way of handling it, because as a collector, you're like, oh my God, do you know who that is? And they're like, hey, nice to meet you, man. And they're like super friendly, and they don't care what you're wearing, and you be halfway drunk and they're still gonna be your best friend. And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's much more than simply getting buzzed in the door.
100%.
Now,
they appreciate you.
Yeah, and not just that, like you went down to F1 with them. You were in the pits, you had all access. And the watches you've got, I mean, you know, we're not talking minute repeaters and tourbillons. That's an extraordinary degree of gratitude.
One day, I actually, with how nice they are, I'm like, I kind of owe it to them. I need to get one of those. Like, the Endeavor here is the double hairspring. The accuracy is kind of, like, looking up double hairspring accuracy kind of with tourbillon, and I'm like, you're getting close there.
And maybe even a little bit better.
I know. I don't want to say that. I was like, I'm not there to say that. You know more than I do.
No.
Like, it is good. Double hairsprings are amazing, and they do that in their watches, and they have the patent for it, and they're incredible, and they make a ton of hairsprings for a lot of other companies.
And it's just great to hear that, you know, you go out, you buy a Pioneer, you buy an Endeavor, all of a sudden you've got Edward, Bertram, Claudio, all these folks. They're friends, you know, they're open, they're warm, there's an embrace, there's a willingness to like invite you into that community. And with Moser, I gotta be honest, I sort of expected that. I did not expect that you would get that same degree of warmth from another independent. Tell me how that worked out.
So, I've asked them multiple times, I'm like, can I talk about you guys? And that's the Journe. FP Journe in Miami that's my AD, and they are the nicest people. I don't know what's going on, because like they're the nicest people ever. Like, go in, I have a drink with Caesar. He's incredible. He's the best bartender in the world, and I feel like he's my sales advisor. Like, they're just so friendly. Everyone is like, hey, come in, meet these guys, and I don't know. They're just amazing. I don't want to say that, because I'm like, I don't want everyone else to go to them and like, for them. I'm like, I don't want to be like, exactly. No, but I want everyone to. I feel bad, because like sometimes I'll get in trouble. I'll be like, no, this is the best AD in the world. Like, they are the friendliest. They're caring. Like, they really like people, and they really like the watches. But then I'm like, I don't want to overwhelm them with like a mob of people coming to them.
But no, it's good. It's a good story, and it's great to hear that they did the right thing, because when you walked in there, not only did you get in the door, there was no issue with that, but they talked to you about like your collecting needs, like what watch.
They want to get to know you, and like what you really want, as opposed to like you coming in and they're just pushing off, this is the first watch you got to buy, then you got to buy this, then you definitely got to buy this, and then we can talk about what you want. Where a lot of other brands do that. For me, it's like, if you want something, you're going to wait a little bit, sure, but you're going to enjoy the wait, because one, if you're going in there asking for a watch and then you don't show up for 2 years and you're not part of the community, you're not meeting the collectors there already, you're not talking with the sales associates, then yeah, it's going to take forever. But you should care about them. You should learn what they're building and what they're doing and their movements, and you should really try to be involved. And I think that's also probably with any watch. If you care, they're going to notice it.
And so they talked to you sort of about what your goals were, and they worked with you towards sort of like fulfilling that goal and living that dream.
Totally. Without me I didn't have to be somebody who was a rock star. I didn't have to be a lawyer or a doctor. I mean, I do pest control. I'm a bug guy. So
or have a tourbillon and an optimum.
Totally. Exactly. I mean, that's what made it so nice, where so many other dealers, you would be like, well, you have to spend this, and this in different categories before we can even talk about you getting what you really want. There was none of that. I mean,
And that is cool because as different as these independents are, I will tell you, the brand image of Moser and the vibe from the brand is very different than the vibe you get from FP Journe. But I'm thrilled to know that you had a welcoming embrace from both of them. And I think that's what's great about independence.
100%. Totally agree.
Now, speaking of independence, you've got a couple of others here. I think with Moser, you wound up maybe finding your home away from home in the world of horology. So how did you go from introductions to the brand and good feelings to really getting deeply into the world of their different collections, Endeavor, Pioneer, Streamliner?
So it started with the Pioneer. I wore it every day. It became my favorite watch. I still love the Pioneer probably more than the Streamliners, which is a problem to say because like Moser, everyone wants the Streamliners. Those are the gorgeous, they're pretty amazing. They're amazing integrated bracelet watch. Like they're cool sports watches. But the Pioneer, like I wear to the beach, I wear in the pool, I beat it up, I rebuild engines with it. It's just my daily comfort watch. And I really, really respect that. After this, I started just reading everything. Like I want a Streamliner. I didn't know which one to get. Everyone said the center seconds are the harder one. And I was at the store, they had a chronograph. Because they're independents, I'm like, they might have made mistakes on their online detailed bio on their watches. With the chronograph, it was an amazing chronograph, first of all. But it says it's an automatic. And when you look at that movement, you're like,
where's the rooter?
Yeah, they're like, they screwed up. It's clearly a manual. Like there's no automatic there. And I thought they screwed up, no big deal. Like they're normal, they're humans. And they're like, keep on going, and everyone's talking about it being an automatic. I'm like, this isn't an automatic. This is clearly, the movement's beautiful. Because you have to always pick. You have to pick a fat rotor, just kind of ruining the view of an amazing chronograph movement. Or you get that manual wound. And I didn't want the manual wound chronograph because, and this is the weird thing, it says it's a 100-meter water resistant watch. I was like, well, you have to wind it every day. I'm like, it's not gonna have a lock. I don't know I didn't know enough about it. And once I saw it, and they're like, oh, by the way, it's hidden under the dial, the rotor. I'm like, what? So that blew me away. I think it's the most underrated chronograph. It's so simple. And it's one of those things where when you look at it, you don't really know what the heck you're looking at.
It doesn't look like a Nautilus, it doesn't look like a Royal Oak. It channels the 70s, but it doesn't plagiarize one specific watch like so many do.
And it's so comfortable. Like most people think, oh, it's gonna pull the hair on your skin. It doesn't whatsoever. It is probably one of the most comfortable sports watches I've ever worn.
Now I want to go back to something you said a little bit earlier about breaking down and building up engines, because you did something that no other guest on a Collector Conversation has ever done. You actually rehabilitated watches, and you did it because you had a family connection. You got to tell me how this happened.
I did. So back to the Invictus. My father had a broken Russian diver with the ETA 6497 movement in it. And after he passed away, I had some of these older watches that he's had, and one was broken. And my goal was, I gotta be smart enough to figure out how to rebuild it, and I want it to be working again. So I purchased a couple of movements of that same caliber, and I was happy to find most watchmakers start with that movement. So it's the most common, easily available movement to kind of start with. Big and robust. You can really find parts, and it's very common. So ordered two, started working on them, went to a class with the Horological Society of New York. They had a class completely dismantling it, putting it all back together. Did that, got some confidence, started just researching everything I could about it, because my goal was to get my dad's watch to work again, and then kind of be even better than what it was. Because one, I was amazed that an Invicta watch had an amazing ETA movement. Like it wasn't even
like a genuine Swiss mechanical movement.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of blown away by that, where they kind of get more credit for that. I mean, I don't know if they still do, but that's what it was. So I saw it, and I saw the little ETA mark on it, and I was like, this is a real movement. So I took the watch apart, took the whole case, I took everything apart, and I started dismantling and rebuilding the entire movement. Started ordering cases from Switzerland, parts from Switzerland, because the goal was, I was terrified of hurting this watch. Like, anything on it, I was terrified because it's the one piece where I cannot screw this up. Ordered 2 other pieces, practiced on that, honed everything in.
You got the tools.
Yes, bought all the tools, bought the timer, I mean, bought everything. Started working on those, built up enough confidence to be like, okay, one day I can touch my dad's watch. And that was the 3rd piece. So I built 2 watches from scratch just to kind of build up the confidence. And then I finally got to the point where I took apart his watch, put it in a new case. So it wasn't like the Invicta case, or I put new hands on it. I put a really cool, like second hand. It's very star-like, just unique and different. No dial, because I wanted to see the dial from both sides. So sapphire on both sides. And the goal was to just always notice the movement and seeing it beat again, because I wanted to keep on going. So, and it to be a part of this watch. And honestly, I didn't bring it. I didn't bring the watches I built, and I didn't want to bring my dad's. And it was such an internal struggle because very much I wanted to show off what he had, but I was so terrified of losing him. Like it means so much where I'm like, if all of these get stolen, I'm cool. If anyone takes one of his, I would break down.
That's incredible.
So,
and the fact that you were able to take apart a watch, repair it, and make it work again.
I'm blown away by that. I don't know what I'm doing. I am a random dude. I am the most random dude.
And I'm not questioning your mechanical acumen.
I'm questioning it, so you're fine.
I talked to a watchmaker who said he saw the founder of Gas Monkey Garage try to work on a watch, and he wound up with pieces flying everywhere. You can be an incredible mechanic.
So I've done that. I've actually, don't get me wrong, I have ruined watches.
I have too.
As a kid, I've almost you always take apart things. Like you take apart things and you're like, you hope you can put it back together. Most of the time, I can't put it back together. This was like the most attention I've put to every little detail on anything where I'm like, you can't fail. And when you get to the point of like, there's no safety net, you cannot fail, you're going to succeed. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. There's no time limit. It's not like it has to be done tomorrow. You could spend 10 years just figuring it out until you are so confident that you're just like, I got this. And it took me 6 months to 8 months of practicing on other watches. A lot of time just really getting comfortable enough, because that Invicta movement, man, it meant the world to me, and it still does, and it's my baby. It's like, oh.
And that's why I say that the best kind of watch collecting journey is one built around memories of experiences and of people.
Totally.
And it absolutely blows me away that you did that. So because you do have a broad sort of based taste, you got watches in here that are independents, but not what I describe as high horology, more like fun horology. You got to tell me where these came from, because these are among the most fun I've ever encountered on this show.
So Instagram, I'm always on Instagram. I do a lot of that, and you're always seeing so many watches for sale, or another company's bringing this out. So let's start with Typsim.
Okay.
Is this incredible dive? I kind of want something I can usually swim in, so it needs to have somewhat of a water resistance where I can jump in the pool, wash my hands, maybe take a shower. I know you're not supposed to do that. I do. This one was fun because this was my first second. I've kind of wanted one always because the hands were always, I see them on Instagram everywhere. They're really popular. They're really cool. Moser has one, and I don't have the Moser second, but I wanted one. This was very diver related, and living in South Florida, we go on the boat a lot, dive a lot.
It's got a lovely glossy, almost dewdrop-like bezel cap.
I mean, that just screams Blumhall.
It does.
Like, so it was a way to be like, well, I got a little bit of that because I don't have a Blumhall 50 fathom. So you get that, you get the dial, you get the gilt dial on it. It looks really cool, but the little bubbles that look like they're little happy high bubbles, essentially. Like,
oh yeah,
they look like they're happy.
And it's fun because it says on the die, it's got Typsim, but it's also got it's got the M crossed out, and it says Typsie, and then on the back,
the Jacques Cousteau quote.
Yeah, it basically says the chief symptom of nitrogen narcosis is, to put it bluntly, the sensation of becoming as drunk as a hoot owl. And so you've got the Typsie altered logo on the front.
So when you go diving, like the oxygen in your brain, you don't get scared. It's really weird. You get like happy, and like thinking about the places I've dove and the wrecks I've breached, I'm like, That sounds incredible. Like you go through different levels of ships underwater and it gets creepy, but you're not creeped out and it's really strange. And I feel like that's it.
This is the embodiment of that feeling.
100%. So when I saw it, I really connected with that.
Now you got another one here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a Bamford collaboration with Seconde, and it's based on their B347, but this is the bad MOFR. Literally, that is the name.
Yep. That's so me. That is, when I saw a watch that is a chronograph, first of all, it's a monopusher. So I was like, I don't have a monopusher, need a monopusher. They sold me on the monopusher. But then it counts with a middle finger, and I'm like, oh, that's incredible. So.
Seconde is a French specialist that kind of reimagines watches in ways that are subversive. That is very subversive.
Totally. And I feel like there was another one that was before. There's like a series of these that weren't so bad, where there was like the peace sign. This is like the end all screw. This is the first second second without the second hand. I mean, when you think of second song, you want the hand. The hand is it. This is it. This is definitely the hand.
It's both a hand and a hand.
Totally. And anytime you show anyone the watch, it says everything.
And it's got that great Bamford aesthetic where you have a real sense of design and unity. The whole thing comes across as one big block, and you got a mechanical SW510 in there. You got the gradient dial. This is a watch that's very much of our moment, and I think embodies the best in watch collecting at any price. It has that fundamental insight that watches are supposed to be fun.
Totally.
And that's what they should all be.
Totally.
So now, you're not quite done with the Breitling journey, because recently, I mean, this came out in 2021. This is the Super Chronomat. So this is a relatively recent release. So you went back to Breitling and revisited that passion.
So every once in a while, I still go to the store, and they're cool. They're friendly guys. Try to go to the Christmas parties they throw and just be a part of it, because me and my dad would go to different parties they would throw together, so it's always going to be a part of us. I have a Breitling, the wings tattooed across me.
So you've got the Patek, but you've also got Breitling.
Got a Breitling, because that was my first watch ever. So I mean, it's part of the journey. There's no getting away from that. And so I was actually in there looking just randomly at watches, and they came out with the Shelby Cobra watch for the top time, and I have a Shelby. So I saw that, I was really excited. I was like, I need this watch. They found me one, and then I picked it up, over the moon. Then while I was picking up that watch, I saw this, and I mean, the Chronomat, it's very like, it's just iconic. It's super bright.
When you're already into a Super Avenger,
totally.
Like this is the descendant of this directly.
Totally, exactly. That's what I felt. And you got Jerry Seinfeld. Like, that's, every time I think of Chronomat, I've always wanted the bullet bracelet, which I kind of want to get the bullet bracelet on this, but it's expensive. And I'm like, at that price, yeah. I know, that's the problem. I'm like, I could just buy a different watch. But I want some type of this in the collection because of just what it is. And for me, Breitling, B01 movement, I mean, it's Breitling. You want that movement. And then you gotta have it. I saw this, and I told the guy, I want one of those. If you can get me that, I'll take that. And they're like, it's gonna be a little rare, but we'll see. So that was like one of the first ones that came into the country. Like right when he called me, he's like, oh, it's in customs, it's coming in, but you could have it, it's yours. And in Miami, I was like, super excited, went down, bought it. And this was my first gold watch. And I've never purchased a gold watch. And it was very much like a coming to moment of like.
For a Miami guy.
Yeah, but it was like the Breitling, this is the first gold. I've always wanted a gold watch because I didn't know what it felt like to know, like, this is what it's like to have a gold watch. Just hit, like, it's a milestone. Even then, I still don't even like wearing gold watches now. I feel like so many people look at it, and I like things where people don't look so much at it. I'm getting to the point where like I like more hidden watches, where the bright, flashy, look at me, it was the younger, but I have to have it regardless.
Well, I mean, it kind of takes you back to where you were. Like, this.
Exactly.
This was the dream watch of like your 90s and early 2000s childhood and adolescence and early adulthood. And, if you're from that era when bigger was better and biggest was best at Breitling, the recent turn the company's made is a little bit away from that. So this is almost like one for the old guard. This is like the embodiment of like a dream from kind of like a bygone era in the company.
Totally.
That was really cool. But here's the great thing. You are into Moser, but you still love Breitling. You're into Journe, but you still have fun with Invicta. And I love that.
I just don't think you should knock anyone's joy or passion when it comes to what they're collecting, because you don't know the history they had with it. I mean, and I think sometimes in watches you can kind of be like, I'm better than you because I wear this. And a lot of people like hitting those levels of, I bought this watch because what I've done or what I've accomplished. And like, that's great, but like, you still kind of see like, you can't sit with us at a table, and it's kind of annoying. And it's nice. And it's weird because once you start getting into the Journe and that crazy high-end stuff, they're the nicest people ever. Like a lot of guys that I've met like, this weekend, we're drinking, we're going out to bar. Tim, all the guys, all the collectors that came to be a part of this with me, it's an amazing brotherhood. Like, it's just really, really cool.
And, you know, sometimes the people behind a watch are really kind of the source of the fascination. And I think independents run the gamut in terms of price. This is a lot more accessible than Moser, but in terms of pricing, I think somewhere between like a Bamford seconde and a Moser, you've got the fascinating Habring story. Low volume watches, but very accessibly priced considering how few they make. And they got a great story.
Totally. That's the secret watch. I feel like no one really knows about that watch. And if you do, you probably have one because they're incredible.
Jumping second pilot, do you like, is it subversive that it looks like a quartz? Is that what you like about it?
I love it. I love everything that doesn't try to be fancy. Everything that is fancy and really down, like it's just self-deprecating. It's very much like, be amazing and then talk down about yourself. Like it's an incredible movement. It's an incredible family that makes it. He's accomplished incredible things. And the fact that he could build, and they're amazing prices. I don't think this is the biggest secret I have, where like most people, like if you know, this is one of those incredible brands that...
We were talking before and you're saying like, I almost don't want to talk about it because I don't want to let the secret out.
Exactly, like, and it's weird because like there's a lot of other brands you could talk about secrets, like that's a secret watch. And it's so many people will look at it and be like, oh, it ticks. Oh, that's not nice. And they just don't know. I'm like, no, it's you go from tick to rolling and then you get really badass and you tick again just because you can. Like, that's what makes it beautiful.
And it's got such a unique story, a husband and wife team, a watch made in Austria, not exactly known for making watches. Watchmaker's name on the dials, the guy who's worked at IWC, and Longa, top of the line. Exactly. And this is what he chooses to make with his total editorial freedom when it's his own brand.
And it's beautiful. It's such an awesome watch.
So now we talked a little bit about kind of the experience of meeting the Journe people and, you know, kind of being surprised at how open and encouraging and kind of, I guess, maybe warmer than you might have expected. Because Journe it's a brand that's got majesty and history and reputation and status, but the people were incredibly approachable. And so let's talk about the watch itself. Once you got sort of welcomed into the fold and they said, yeah, we think we can get you that watch. How did you decide which one you wanted and what do you love about this?
So being a Florida guy, the ocean, I've always kind of been attracted to mother of pearls. I didn't even know if I could ask for a mother of pearl boutique edition, but I've asked and I was, hey, is this a possibility? And they're like, sure, we'll see where it happens. We'll see what happens. And that was genuinely, obviously, I think everyone knows Journe's probably one of the best watchmakers alive. So, I mean, it's just, you look at these watches and they're cool in pictures, but when you really handle it, it's different. And once you start taking apart a movement and building movements, I think the gap has got so big of just impressed by how movements work and the parts that get polished that you'll never see, or the time and effort that goes into something where there's someone spending hours and days and weeks and months doing something. It's just incredible. It doesn't even make sense. I just feel honored enough to be able to I could purchase a CS. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the whole journey because I still have years and years and years to go of watch collecting. I don't even know where this is going to go after this because I'm already terrified. Growing up, when I first bought the Breitling, when I was at the store, the salesman, he's like, I want you to see something. The Breitling tourbillon, the Bentley.
Oh, the Mulliner tourbillon.
Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh. He goes, it was like, I think it was like 75 to 85,000, it was somewhere in that range. And I was like, I can't believe anyone would spend that on a watch. I can't even comprehend why would someone ever have that type of watch. It's just buy a house or buy a condo or an investment or something logical. And now I'm starting to get to the point where I'm spending certain numbers on watches, and I'm like, I would kick myself if I was that back. If I was like in my 20s again, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, do something better. And it's so weird because it's like, I feel like I'm always kind of competing also with me in my 20s of, do you see what I have? Like, do you see what we got? And it's such a weird, because growing up, I told myself I would never buy a watch over 75 grand. That was the number. I was like, anything over that, you're just nuts. Like, you're just stupid. And now I'm like, oh, I totally get it. It's amazing. You totally buy a watch. I'm like a $100,000 watch. And it sounds crazy to say. I think everyone hearing this, I think you're nuts. That's a stupid number. And then you meet up with 15 other people and I'm like, watch collecting is a weird journty.
It is.
It is a weird journey.
I mean, look, I'm part of it, and I'm about as weird as they get.
Look at you with the little matching
that's true.
Dan's watches.
Well, I am talking to a guy who has 3 watch tattoos, so I guess it's mutual.
So yeah, I know
We're both weird.
Definitely weird.
So now this is an incredible watch, and I do know what you mean. Having been inside like a basic movement, you take apart and put together a 6497, you're like, there's so many different ways this could go wrong and I could break something. And then
I have. You're gonna break something. You're gonna put something back together. You're like, why isn't this working? And you gotta take it all back again. You gotta take it all apart, and then you gotta learn why it didn't work. And sometimes you don't even know why it didn't work. And then you try to put it back together, and then sometimes it works, and you didn't learn anything from it.
But you talk about the respect for the watchmaker. You're like, okay, let's just talk about the most basic thing. Taking these bridges and plates made of solid gold, not leaving a scratch. Attaching dozens of screws, black polished, not leaving a mark.
It's hard. Like, it's a master. You're a master.
This is truly special. And you know what I love about your collection? The next watch could very well be an Invicta or a seconde collaboration or a Habring. Or maybe it could be that split seconds Patek Philippe. Maybe you finally make good on that promise to yourself. But it could be anything, and you have no dogmas. And I love that. Shane, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. It's been awesome.